Hey there, everyone. Today I weigh 147.2 pounds. I believe that's down about zero point 0.4 pounds from yesterday. Very nice indeed. Today my diet was really limited. It essentially consisted of a stir fry that had a cheese and garlic cream sauce over shrimp, as well as a cream sauce over beef and vegetables. And yeah, that's pretty much all I ate yesterday, other than some Sour Patch Kid gum that was blue raspberry flavored in zero sugar, sweetened with xylitol, and a cup of coffee, or like four cups of coffee, and a cup of black tea, sweetened with another cup of black tea sweetened with an equal, with a little bit of pumpkin spice in it, as well as a almond milk drop in there. Oh yeah, and a homemade macchiato with a little bit of heavy whipping cream and a lot of almond milk as the base. Alright, what was had for exercise? I have to be honest with you, I didn't really exercise at all today. I was what one may call a lazy bones. That's not completely true. I did move around a lot, but I'll get to that in a bit. But I definitely wasn't like walking all the time or doing any strenuous exercises at work today. This makes me think I'm probably going to see the scale tomorrow be quite stagnant, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Alright, now that the diet update's done in 2 minutes, by the way, let's get on to the daily update. So, when I woke up this morning at around 11, I greeted my sister, and I remember I decided to sit in the couch in the den and watch a Digital Foundry video on this new LCD screen technology created by NVIDIA called NVIDIA Pulsar. And it was a really fascinating video. It was basically about how NVIDIA has discovered a new way to give LCD technology similar motion clarity to that of a CRT television. So you no longer have persistence blur, but a perfect screen motion persistence where every frame is clearly seen by the naked human eye. And what that means is when you're playing a game, you just get a perfect visual motion. And this is all done with LCD technology, where they mimic how a CRT did display technology, where CRT would shoot a colored beam on the back of a glass phosphorescent tube, and every time it shot like a beam, the beam would decay, and then it would shoot a new beam that would create a new frame, or sliver of the frame, until that would decay. And because it did that, it was able to create really great motion clarity in each shot. It did, because the response times on a CRT were insane, because it was basically just a beam of light directly shooting on glass. When LCDs first were introduced, the technology was basically just like, think of like switching from one photo to the next on a camera, but it's automatically doing that 60 frames a second for you. That's kind of like what an LCD does, but because of the way the technology worked originally, it wasn't able to deliver a clear motion. And so screens that use basic LCD technology end up having something called persistence blur, which makes the image, or the way things move, look smudgy. But thanks to NVIDIA's new pulsar technology, which can only ironically be achieved with LCD displays currently, by the way. You no longer have to worry about persistence blur because NVIDIA makes it so the LCD only draws a line of the frame down a second. Pretty much exactly like how a CRT used to do at the time. The only problem is it needs the consistent backlight of the LCD in order to make the effect work, which is why it's only available on LCD displays and seemingly is unable to be replicated with OLED displays. The thing with OLED displays is they can create visuals that have an appearance of good motion clarity, but the problem is you have a few caveats. For example, you cannot use what do you call that, where the frame rate matches the screen, no matter how low or high it is, as long as it meets a certain threshold. Low frame rate compensation, no, it was something else. I think it was called, variable refresh rate, or I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but basically it's where it takes a frame delivery, no matter what the frame is, even if it goes up to 60 or goes down to 50 or 40, and it's able to deliver the frames in a way where it still looks smooth to the human eye, because the way the game's frames are delivered through the console is being directly adhered by the screen. The screen detects, oh, this game's not running a consistent 60, it's not running a consistent 120, so I'm going to help it out by matching up with the frames that it is delivering with in real time, so that way the screen will, that way when the frames are delivered to the final human eye, it will continue to have a sense of smoothness no matter what, even if the frames fluctuate consistently. So, yeah, apparently, with an OLED monitor, a way of getting good motion clarity out of an OLED is using something called black frame insertion, where in between a frame, a black frame is flashed for a split second before going to the next frame, and apparently this creates a similar effect to what is going on with the pulsar screen, where it allows the image to draw a line per second, but in this case it's the entire frame flashing for 1 second, then blacking out for 1 second, then reintroducing for another second. The problem is, even though this technique can work by giving better motion clarity to the image, here are a few issues. It doesn't work at frame rates below 60. So if you have a game that runs at 30 and you put on low frame rate compensation, the game's just going to look dark, and the motion clarity isn't really going to be that noticeable at all. It only starts being noticeable when you decide to use 60 frames per second paired with black frame insertion. 60 on up. Another thing, the game needs to have a consistent frame rate. So if the game has a variable frame rate, then the black frame insertion doesn't work because there's a variable delivery happening, so the black frames cannot keep up with the constantly shifting and changing frames. So you have that issue as well. And then the third and final issue is that you also have a little hint of input latency, because the TV has to work a little extra harder to display both the black frames pulsing between the full frames, and so that increases latency a little bit. Also, you have to turn off low latency on the TV in order to get the black frame insertion mode to function properly. And then the last thing is that it dims the screen. So unless you have a really nice HDR display for OLED monitors that can still do black frame insertion while also managing to overcome the darkness with HDR, then you're going to be looking at a game that has really smudgy looking. You're going to be looking at a game that has good motion clarity, especially if it's at 120 hertz with black frame insertion. It's going to end up looking a little dim compared to if you played the game without black frame insertion. So as you can see, a monitor that still tries to get the motion clarity of a CRT with strobing black frames has a lot of drawbacks. But with Pulsar enabled, it allows the monitor to just immediately do the lines being drawn in at arbitrary frame rates. Meaning, originally in the video, the guy who was being interviewed who was able to test out the monitor, John Lenderman, stated that the limit was 60 hertz, but because he was able to talk with the NVIDIA engineers, and because a guy who also tests motion clarity on flat panel monitors was able to get in contact with the NVIDIA engineers, they were able to make the limit go from 60 FPS to 41 FPS. So now games that were unable to perhaps benefit from the pulsing of the screen now can benefit. It opens the library much wider up, basically. So that's pretty awesome. And he was just talking about how it originally, in order for a flat panel display to reach the motion clarity of a CRT television, the flat panel display would need to hit 1,000 hertz, 1,000 frames per second, which sounds impossible, especially if you want to run any game that has modern visuals in it. But apparently, he says, thanks to this new NVIDIA Pulsar monitor, it gives you CRT-like motion clarity with even as little as 120 hertz, or perhaps even less than that, but ideally 120 and above, because it just the way the screen's able to draw the information like a CRT, where it shows the pixels up on one sliver of a row of pixels and then blacks it out, then shows the next, and does that continuously for however arbitrary frame rates. It's able to give you the best motion clarity on flat panel that's ever been achieved, in his words. The only problem is, since it's only available with LCD technology right now, you're not going to get true HDR highlights. You're going to get just a okay enough LCD panel, 1440p, 22 inches. So overall, it's not ideal, but it is really cool, and the fact that it exists is something that to be excited, celebrated about, especially if you're someone who's a huge fan of great motion clarity in their video games, and also just wants something that you get the most benefit out of a decent graphics card you own. So yeah, it was a really interesting video. I learned a lot from it. Everything I shared here, I learned from it, and it was really cool. Really enjoyed it. Okay, I think I've gone long enough about that. Moving on. After watching that, I remember I was going to start on watching another Digital Foundry video where Oliver McKenzie and Alex Battaglio were talking about the new advantages of DLSS 4.5 and why it's such a great benefit to the DLS line of transformer upscaling technology for NVIDIA graphics cards. And it was really cool to see the demonstrations being shown. It was really cool to see how this technology is improving and advancing. And it just goes to show all you need is a decent enough startup resolution at the background, 1080p or more, and then NVIDIA's DLSS cracks its fingers and reconstructs that to a more favorable resolution. So, yeah, and that frees up system resources on the graphics card to do insane, more advanced things like path tracing and like better rendering of assets. So I think that's pretty awesome, all things considered. It's a net win. All right, well, I stopped watching that. Just gonna make some coffee. Then my mom and our family friend arrived. I greeted them. I asked my mom if she wanted some coffee. She said yes, and make it a macchiato. So I made it a macchiato. Then my middle sister arrived, and it's because we decided to celebrate our family friend's birthday today. Since a lot of us were at work and couldn't attend celebrating the day of her birthday, so we were able to celebrate it today. It was really awesome. Our family friend, my sister, and my other sister decided they would chill out, hang out in the den. They decided to, it's like the TV decided to go on some random channel called Ion and play like a CIA show, and they were kind of making fun of the fact the show had been on for a really long time, and everyone who was acting in that show, it kind of is it's basically their day job, or their, like, check in, act in the show, check out kind of thing, where they do good enough work to where they can get consistent work, even if it's like a show that like many wouldn't say is groundbreaking or like jaw-dropping television. What people do say about it is that it's good enough to still be going all these years. So I guess they might be doing something right, but I just thought that was funny. Like, the actors there are like blue-collar actors. They're like, yep, check in, do my thing, check out, rinse and repeat until they cancel the show, which it seems like they may never cancel the show. So I guess I'm good to go until I die or something. So yeah, pretty interesting. Or I decide to retire from acting. And then after that, as they were watching and making sly comments at it, I was helping my mom in the kitchen by chopping up beef and putting it in a white glass, or no, just a see-through glass container, as well as chopping up bell peppers and putting those up. And my mom was defrosting shrimp, putting them in, chopping other vegetables, throwing those in. When I was done chopping up the bell peppers and the skirt steak, she mixed a bunch of different seasonings in there and threw that in. She cooked the shrimp and the beef in separate woks, and just mixed them all together, and eventually they were all stir-fried and ready to go. So my mom told everyone it was ready. We cleared the table. My youngest sister made garlic bread, air-fried garlic bread that my middle sister brought from the store. And we all had a delicious meal in celebration of our family friend, which was a collection of shrimp, beef, and veggies. And of course, our family friend, my sisters there all had the bread. And my mom also had the bread. So yeah, I decided to stay on my diet and stay away from anything carby today. And we just had a really good time, just enjoying each other's company, talking about various things. It was really cool. And then afterwards, I mentioned, hold on, the phone's running out of battery juice. Let me just plug it in really quick. All right, perfect. So, my sister mentioned that she wanted to show me the series One Piece. So I decided it would be fun to bust out our projector and our projector screen. So I found the screen, I set it up, I got a little bit of help from my sisters, and I filled these 2 water sacks that were supposed to weigh down the screen so it wouldn't fly away. It was still in the midday, so it wasn't really easy to see the screen yet because it was so bright outside. So yeah, we were, and also it was a really windy day, so the screen kept on threatening to just be blown away. To the point where my sister made a joke about how like the screen's like a sail; it's gonna blow into the wind and bring the whole house with it. Something silly like that. And we used the string provided with the projector. My sister had the idea of tying it to a table that was next to it, and my other sister had the idea. My mom had the idea of putting chairs behind the screen to give it a little more stability. And then I had the idea of putting some bricks at the bottom of the screen so that way it could keep from getting picked up by the wind and flying away. And overall, the stability ended up improving drastically, although the wind just kept on pushing and it was still too bright to see. But I did get the projector. I asked my mom for the connector. I connected the projector to the connector, which was connected to the electricity, and I tried to position the projector right where it needed to be for a good quality viewing experience. And while it was like decent enough, it still wasn't like ideal because the projection screen just kept on getting blown forward and backward. So we were unsure if we were even going to be able to enjoy this show due to this annoying predicament. However, my sister, both my sisters and my mom and our family friend decided they would go get a birthday cake and ice cream for our family friend. And I would just I decided to hang out because I gotta be honest, I was pretty exhausted from all the things that was going on. Like I was draining to me mentally. Because before, after the screen was set, we were hanging out, and I was watching. I wasn't watching. I was just listening to our family friend playing music while music was playing in the back room that my mom put on for our dinner we had. And yeah, it was just kind of a lot to take in. My youngest sister ended up turning off the TV sound, and our family friend just kept on playing oldie music that she had on her phone. And then my mom did some dancing after hearing what our family friend was playing, and then I was doing a little bit of dancing too, so that was kind of fun. And yeah, then they left, and yeah, I was just chilling in the backyard. I decided to try to adjust where the projector would be so we'd get the best possible image. And then after that, I decided to sit in the chair and do a little bit of breath work. Yeah, that was okay. Wasn't too crazy. Honestly, the chair I sat on wasn't the best. It wasn't very comfortable, so I couldn't really get into the breath work this time around, but I did my best. Eventually, our family friend, my mom and my 2 sisters, had arrived back from the store with cherry ice cream and a cream cake. And they helped themselves to it. Of course, I chose not to eat any of it because I'm, of course, trying to watch my weight right now. I'm trying to get down to 145 and 147.4 right now, so I'm trying to avoid all that. It was a 0.2. But anyways, so once they helped themselves, my mom made some tea. The wind suddenly became very still. The screen could be seen really easily because it got really dark outside. And so my sister asked if I could use a web browser on the projector or cast the phone. I found that you could use a web browser on the projector. And then we went to a website called One Pace, that's PACE, where it takes all of the episodes of the anime and it condenses the main story, cuts out all of the filler, so it's as easy to follow as humanly possible, and there's no dilly-dallying around. It just is a straightforward version of the story without any, extra bits. So I really did appreciate that my sister found a fan edit that was able to do that. It basically just uses the original manga as the blueprint for how to edit the anime, and sticks to it religiously, so that way it's basically just like watching an animated version of the manga come to life. And we, of course, watched it in the original Japanese language because I gotta be honest, the English dub of One Piece is extremely cheesy. I think it's because they decided to, when it started, they used 4Kids Network to publish some of the earlier episodes. And I gotta be honest, those early 4Kids, broadcasts definitely didn't do the show any favors for broad appeal because the voice acting was just a little obnoxious and cheesy and corny, as with a lot of the 4Kids Network broadcasting at that time during the mid to late 2000s. Honestly, I don't know what they were really thinking. It's like they were doing everything they could to make it as this series as annoying as possible. But the original Japanese dub, because it's the original language of the show, I was able to get into it better despite having to read subtitles because it felt more like a genuine experience, because it was oh, this is the original language, and this is what was the intention of what it was supposed to sound like, instead of some executive producer in America's warped attempt at understanding what the voice actors were supposed to sound like. So I really did appreciate that, and it was a lot of fun. The first episode was about the main character Luffy being a kid who sees these band of pirates who are all sort of bizarrely virtuous, but also scallywags, but not complete jerks. Then we have this jerk pirate and his crew come in, and they're able to be stopped by the guy's crew, and then the guy escapes with Luffy, and he's going to get eaten by a giant beast in the ocean. But luckily, the captain of the pirates that came to town saves him while losing his arm in the process, and he decides when parting ways that he gives the kid version of Luffy his own hat so he could inspire him to be his own pirate hero. And so that's who he decides to be, so he leaves town and goes off on his way to have a big epic pirate adventure to find the One Piece. So pretty interesting, pretty cool. Yeah, and there was a lot of fun humor throughout. It's really enjoyable. The next episode, it's about this new pirate character, this lady with a big club who bosses her crew around. And there's this kid character with glasses and pink hair who's on the boat, who just is treated horribly by this lady. But then two pirates find this barrel that's they catch in a net and bring up on board, and they don't know what's in it, but they think it might be booze, so they're about to open it. But then Luffy pops out, and the pirates are all freaked out by it because it's such a weird thing that's happening. And then the kid's oh my gosh, you're crazy, why are you doing this? And he's I'm just trying to follow my dream, wouldn't you? And then the kid gets inspired by the character to follow his dreams. But then the other pirates think that he's a spy, so they notify their captain, who when she finds out, she tries to take him out. But then Luffy ends up taking her out with a big punch, and she flies off into the sky, causes an atomic splash on one of her crew members. And then Luffy decides to leave after encouraging his new friend, the boy with the glasses and pink hair, to follow his dreams of being like a captain of the guard type, or part of the military who is supposed to fight against pirates. So yeah, ironically, a character who wants to be a pirate themselves helps out someone who's makes it their mission to chase down pirates. So pretty interesting indeed. And that was the end of that episode. I'd have to say, I thought this one was definitely more in the more in the goofy slapstick territory, which isn't a bad thing. I do like goofy slapstick. I did like Luffy's feeling throughout the episode, where he's just super casual about achieving his goals and dreams and not letting anything stand in his way, and I thought that was really cool. And I thought his him being an inspiration to the kid character in the episode was a nice touch too. He stood up for himself in front of his mean pirate lady boss, and showed that he had courage. So I thought that was pretty awesome as well. So a pretty filling and wholesome episode we have here at the end. And yeah, I did like both of these. They were a lot of fun, and they were really enjoyable. So big thumbs up. Well, after watching that, I remember we were all hanging out in the living room, just talking, chatting up. And yeah, I did get into some complications during this time when it came to dealing with some information on my phone. I was worried I was scammed because I was trying to sign into a government website. I was like, oh no, did I get scammed? But then I looked up the address, reverse engineered it, and asked Google, and then asked to provide a link and everything. And it's a legit website, and it is the government website, because it's like got .gov in front of it, and all the letters are lowercase. So, yeah, I was freaking out for no reason, but yeah, for a second I was going there, I was like, oh no, did I mess myself up? But I don't think I did. No, I know I didn't, because I verified all the information, and I'm happy to report that what I found out was that the website is indeed legit, because it is .gov and has the HTTP / thing, shows it's protected and all. So yeah. All right. Well, moving along, I remember I was we were just having some good family time together. Then my sister had to go. Before she left, we snuggled our cats that decided to say hello to us, so we snuggled them. And then she left. We all said goodbye to her, sing a little goodbye song. She drove away, and when she drove away, I decided to eat some of the leftover meal from earlier in the day while watching the rest of the Moment of Contact updated 2025 version of the documentary, which was really interesting. More interesting things about was there was like a doctor who oversaw a military guy of 23 years old who picked up the alien being with his own hands and apparently got scratched. I thought it was on the armpit, but apparently it was on the chin. And apparently it didn't matter what antibodies they threw at this thing. It just completely, whatever virus the guy had, ultimately took his life 2 years later. And then another thing was like a neuroscientist who was able to check in on this being for 4 minutes before it was taken by government officials. Stated he had a brief telepathic communication with the being where the being said, I'm fine, I've been worked on, or something like that. And then at the end of the documentary, the neuroscientist cries because he says we have a lot to learn from the eyes of that being. So, really, really fascinating stuff for sure. And then after all that, did a little bit of UFO research on Ross Coulthart, just hearing about like some anomalies discovered during on the coast of California. Like batteries immediately running out that are fully charged and compasses going out of whack. Pretty engaging stuff. As I was doing that, I did my line drawing work. Oh, and I also did 20 minutes of editing too before I finished the documentary. So yeah, I got a lot of good work done there, and here's my little line work I did. So yeah, that's the living that's the den area. Pretty cool. And yeah, then I got tired, so I turned off the TV. I told my sister to go to bed. I took my vitamins, I brushed my teeth, and I made this update video. So that's pretty much the day in a nutshell. I accidentally bit my tongue. So that's why I'm talking with a bit of a weird lisp right now, because it's a little bit of a hurting to talk right now, but do it anyways, because I gotta keep my streak going. And yeah, that's that. I'm gonna now go to bed. I will see you tomorrow. Take care and have a great time.